Welcome back again. 2 in the same day. Wow. Last one of the season, obviously. Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. If ignore the Saudi stuff, because this is just Abu Dhabi. In and of itself, this is. I said it in the Saudi video. In terms of like season-ending championships, since certainly in this era, the turbo hybrid era, since 2014, we had, like I said, 2014 was Rosberg Hamilton. Hamilton led by I think it was 17 points, but they had double points in the last race, so it was technically still Rosberg could technically still do it. Hamilton was out in front, winning that race, and Rosberg's car started to break down and fail, so that ended up screwing up for him. So that was kind of, it was Jewel in the Desert, they called it. It was obviously an exciting finish. 2015 was over early. 2016 was obviously the big one when Rosberg led Hamilton by a good amount. Hamilton needed to win the race and Rosberg needed to come like fourth, which is unlikely that your teammate in a car that was that dominant, it was going to come fourth. That was when probably my least favourite of the turbo hybrid era thing that Hamilton's done, when he backed up Rosberg into Vettel and Verstappen. Ironically, it was Verstappen who Rosberg overtook incredibly. He did a Verstappen on Verstappen. This is obviously 6 years ago, so it's a long time ago. Young Verstappen, but ironically, if you said to me you've got to overtake Max Verstappen to win a world championship, no thanks. So Rosberg did that in the end. So Hamilton it was unsporting, I suppose, to his teammate at that point. And then 2017 and 18, it was ended because of Ferrari's mistakes. They obviously crashed in Germany and crashed in Singapore. So there's no title decided at the end. So then I guess 2019, again, same thing. 2020, absolutely the same thing. So in terms of going into the last race, like I mentioned it before Mexico, I think, normally, again, in the turbo hybrid era, specifically Hamilton has had the championship wrapped up by this point already. So Abu Dhabi's just a bit of time just to have a bit of fun and mess around. Last year, Hamilton had COVID before the penultimate race. So he missed the penultimate race in Bahrain. And then he came back for this race. He only just made it by like a couple of days. So he was not 100%. The car, after I just watched all the races actually yesterday, the car, they believe, was turned down. So this engine problem that they've kind of got this year started, I guess, last year. So they had the engines turned down. Verstappen nicked pole, but it was like 0.2 of a second, not even 0.2 of a second to Bottas, and then 0.8. So they're all within 1/10 of a second of the top three. So it wasn't, the pace was, it was all kind of quite even. But that was the first time Red Bull looked pretty good. So Verstappen cleared off and won that race. It was just not even, it wasn't an absolute landslide, but it was never really closer than 5 seconds. Hamilton was just going around in third. I think both the Mercedes, it was a weird one because they just looked like they just had no extra pace, or they were limited to what they were doing. So there was no danger of them winning the race. Verstappen won that race very comfortably. So that everything up until now kind of goes out the window, which is I guess in keeping with this ridiculous season, because not only is there stuff on the line finally in Abu Dhabi, but the track's different. And Abu Dhabi has always been, anyone who's watched more than one race, terrible racing, because there's very wide open tracks. The corners are so that you can't overtake into the corners. So there's only a couple of overtaking spots, and even then it's tough. But it's historically a shambolic race. Last year, halfway through, I was watching lap 20 and it was actually extraordinarily boring. So normally Abu Dhabi is absolute snooze fest. This shouldn't be. Obviously I think a lot of people would take a bit more normality after last week, but given the layout, which I'm going to put up now. So if you look at, it's hard to kind of pick where the start finish line is if you don't know the track, but right in the middle there's a line going down the middle. That's the start finish straight. So everything up and through turn 1, 2, 3 is the same. And then this first bit in the top right hand corner, is where it used to be. I actually quite like, on the Formula 1 game, I actually quite liked this section because it's quite cool. You get it's basically almost flat out. As soon as you get past that first turn, it's flat out all the way to that corner. Then there was a little left, right, and a hairpin. So to drive it is fun, but you can't overtake there. And then that's DRS all down the back straight. So you can see there, they've changed this little chicane into just a hairpin. So that's going to mean you're flat out from turn 1 to that hairpin, slingshot round, and you're going flat out all the way to the top of that screen there. And then there's a little kink, a little left, right, flat out all the way down there, another DRS zone. And then in keeping with 2021, this corner in the bottom left now is a banked corner where it used to be, again, on the Formula 1 game, it's one of my favourite sections of track. I was always really good on this part of the game. It's a sort of very, very fast DRS, and then it's a, what direction are we going? Left, right, left, and then another left into an extremely difficult third sector. So they've got rid of all that, and they've made it a banked, curved corner. So if you're not a Mercedes fan, or not a fan of whatever, from turn 1 to the start of sector 3, we have one actual corner where you're slowing down properly, or two, kind of. So power is obviously going to be a thing. So the way how Lewis Hamilton specifically dominated sector 2 and 3 in Jeddah, because it was very, very fast, you would expect, again, barring anything crazy from a Red Bull engine, you'd expect Hamilton to be very good in those first 2 sectors and Mercedes power to be a thing. So that's going to be quite key. So he's going to slingshot all the way around, and then the final sector is pretty much as it was before. They've widened that middle bit, right in the middle of the screen there, where the hotel is. That bit was always very difficult on the game because it was kind of like two very hard, literal right angle corners, or 3 technically, 1, 2, 3, 4 if you like. That bit has kind of been widened, so that's going to be a little bit faster. So Red Bull are going to be good in that last one for sure, but Mercedes are going to be good in 1 and 2. It's going to be probably close in 1. 2 is pretty much flat out in 2 DRS zones, and then 3, sector 3 is that middle bit in the middle. So given the new type of track, it looks on paper, like, as you look at it, it looks like a Mercedes track. However, last week, as we thought it was going to be pure flat out Mercedes power in Saudi Arabia, it didn't turn out that way, and Max Verstappen would have put it on pole. So who knows? Literally, who knows? I haven't got a Scooby. I mean, on paper, like I said, it looks very fast, and Mercedes is very fast, but Red Bull would have got pole position last week. Well, Max Verstappen would have got pole position. So it's looking a bit interesting, to say the least. I think the couple of variables are obviously Mercedes' engine, which is it's done 2 races now. So it's not going to be as powerful as Brazil. It's not going to be outright slingshot, firing past people. And Red Bull did look quite good last week. Their power did look quite good. But Mercedes did have the faster car overall. So prediction-wise, it does look like Mercedes would be quite happy with this track layout. So that's my sort of prediction. It's impossible to predict because you know who's going to put it in the wall, who's going to have a failure, or who's going to take each other out in the first corner or the last corner, whichever one it is. So yeah, typically Mercedes have always, up until last year, they've got pole position and won every single race in the turbo hybrid era. So in the last 6 years, always on the front row locker every single year, and then Max got it on pole ahead of the 2 Mercedes last year. So it's on paper, even before this year, it's always a Mercedes track. Mercedes were like, okay, cool, this is the one they're always good at. And then last year, Red Bull got in there. So Max won the last race, like I said. Mercedes typically are good there. Mercedes have got the momentum now. Hamilton's won 3 races in a row. And given the new layout, especially, it's kind of, does suit a more power, more of a power car. So we will see. That's my sort of that's the most important thing. Like I said, is the new layout of the track. That's going to be the most interesting thing, and obviously, given the momentum of Hamilton, Max is under a bit of pressure. If Hamilton ends up on pole, it's going to be interesting to see what Max can do to try and chase him down. I think if they're both on the front row, That first corner, forget about it. But I think Hamilton will definitely know if he's not on pole or if he's second going into that first section. If you're going to get a slipstream down either of those two back straights or DRS, I think it's more. It's not a first corner wins the race sort of job. I think this week. So I think it's going to be a long race. Could end up being strategy, and it could end up, like I said, I don't know when it was, a long time ago. We could end up going final lap or down to the last sort of the wire. Someone's going to roll the dice strategically. It's going to be early pit stops and undercuts and overcuts and all sorts of craziness. So I think I am actually hoping for a more like not pedestrian race, but a more sort of sensible race. And I think one other thing to add with the FIA, because I kind of mentioned it with the Saudi Grand Prix, but I think either they do something, either they bring out some kind of communication this week addressing everything that's happened and say, right, this is what's going to change, this is what's going to change, and clear things up, or they just leave it and then do the whole thing to start next season. I think you need to clarify the rules of engagement for this race, because if you just go crack on, then Hamilton and Verstappen will hit each other at some point, and then they're going to have an even harder job, because the checkered flag could easily go, and two of them are under investigation for something, and then that'd be the worst part of it. I think what everyone wants, regardless of what side of the divide you're on, so to speak, I think you'd want whoever hits the checkered flag first to win. I don't think you want time penalties and people running wide and I don't want any of that. I just want whoever's the fastest on the weekend, just win the race, and let's have it at that. Everything that's happened before, we're going to go into. I'm obviously going to do a massive season review for the whole season. I'm going to break down into sections. Obviously, I'm not going to do each individual race per video. I'm going to break it down into sections. I feel like the season has kind of had its distinct feels. Like there's been a distinction. Start, the early middle, then it's the Silverstone era, and I think this sort of section now where Mercedes have got the faster car, and the gap has come down and down and down, is its own section. But I don't know. Night races do add a different kind of drama. There's something about, because we've had all the daytime, the very fan heavy events, obviously Britain and Monza, Belgium. Well, Belgium kind of was. Obviously the Dutch Grand Prix, all that, the really home support, the feverish support in the daytime. It's kind of a different, it's a bit more chill. Nighttime, there's something about nighttime when they're racing is just it's just chaos. So as we saw last week, so I'm excited, extremely excited. I probably won't be excited come 1 o'clock on Sunday. I'll be more just nervous as hell. So I think like everyone will be, because it's assuming nothing else happens, it's going to be winner take all. There's no situation where they can draw. There is literally none, because they're tied on points. They can't score the same amount of points and not have a winner. So if they both don't finish, Max is going to win. If whoever beats whoever finishes in front of the other person is going to win the championship, as long as they both finish in the top 10, obviously. So, and then I guess we'll see what happens with Bottas, what happens with Perez. Is anyone going to take engine penalties? I mean, I wonder if Red Bull are going to take a fresh engine and try and just go from 6 to... that'd be silly. No, I don't think they would do that. But, yeah, clearly that new Mercedes engine they've chucked in there, hopefully, assuming the reliability goes its way, it's going to be quite formidable. So, appreciate the watch once again. I will be back before you know it, recapping someone who's won a world championship.